Hey, welcome back. We're going through the early chapters of Genesis and seeing how they point us to Christ and his death and his resurrection. Want to look at Noah and his drunkenness. I'll probably do this in two parts. This is part one. I'll talk about how Noah got drunken and later the blessings and curses on his son's grandson as a result. But let's start off at the beginning of the story. First of all, after the flood, after Noah comes out and builds an altar and worships the Lord, and God gives him a rainbow and starts this new covenant, it then says, and then Noah became a man of the soil. He became a farmer. He became in Hebrew, he became a man, which is Adam of the soil, Adama. So there's a little play on words here. He became like this man of the soil, Adama. And he becomes this man of the soil, meaning he hadn't been a farmer before the flood, but now he's looking for a new type of job, apparently, and he becomes a farmer and he starts a vineyard. Vineyard throughout the Bible has a lot of symbolism, a lot of meaning in vineyard. It then says he went and made wine. Of course, wine, highly symbolic throughout Scripture. And all this, we're looking to see how can we study Christ? How can we worship Christ? How can we find Christ? How can we, if you're a preacher or teacher, how to teach Christ, how to preach Christ from the Scriptures? So he becomes a man of the soil, Adam, Adama, and he plants this vineyard and he makes wine, and it says he drunk the wine, and he ended up laying out naked in his tent, which that's not just drunk, that's dead drunk. Drunk is when you take your friend's car keys away from them and don't let them drive. Dead drunk is when you don't let them walk because they're just falling over. And he was out in the deepest possible sleep. Now, this is the second time we see this in the book of Genesis so far. The first deep sleep was Adam, when God put Adam into this deep sleep, and out of his side he made his bride. And of course that pointed us forward to Christ, how Christ would die the death, sleep the sleep of death, and out of his side flowed blood and water, and that this made his bride. This is the second big sleep of the Bible, and it also points us forward to Christ. He's laid out naked there in shame, and his first son sees it and kind of mocks. He goes out and he doesn't help his dad. He doesn't cover his dad, doesn't go to see if his dad's okay. And instead he talks about his father. Of course, this happens all the time in society, even happens in the church. We see people sin. We don't go to help them privately, but we go out and talk about it. That's kind of a different sermon all into itself right there. But one son goes out, talks about the other two. It says they put a cloak on their shoulders and kind of reverently turned their heads and walked backwards and took this cloak that was on their shoulders and laid it on their father to cover his shame. Just so far in the first part of the story, there's so much of Christ. Of course, Noah drinking the wine and then falling into this deep sleep. Wine throughout Scripture, of course, sometimes it's seen as a blessing. God gives wine, and God gives food, things like this. But when it's talking about drinking from the cup and drinking it deep all the way down to the dregs, the prophets use this imagery. Isaiah, Jeremiah, they both talk about the cup of the Lord and drinking the cup of the Lord and associating this with God's judgment on people and drinking God's wrath. This is why then Jesus, he so often referred to his death, his crucifixion, in terms of drinking a cup of wine. He says, I have a cup to drink from. When he's asked about his disciples, talking about when he's going to Jerusalem, I have a cup to drink from. And when he's praying, he prays to the Father and it says, Father, if it be your will, let this cup pass from me, but not my will, but your will be done. When Peter comes and chops off the high priest's servant's ear, Jesus rebukes him as the soldiers are taking him off to his trial and his crucifixion. He goes, shall I not drink from the cup the Father has given me? Jesus, as one poet said, he drank damnation dry. And it was the drinking of the cup that put him to shame, laying out naked on the cross, clothed with nothing but a crown of thorns, thorns being Adam's symbol of curse, clothed in absolute shame and cursing. And people around the cross, they responded differently, just like people responded differently to Noah, some with talk and mockery and disrespect, and others with respect and reverence. Some were pointing to Jesus, saying, "If you are the Son of God, save yourself." And others were saying, bowing down and say, "Surely this man was the Son of God." Okay, this is just the first bit. I'm going to do a part 2 now, and because I've just kind of talked about Noah's death into sleep and this drunken, how we can preach Christ from this passage, but his resurrection, Noah wakes up, and we'll talk about that in part 2. See you there.